Mr. Paul, thank you so much for having us in CNBC Indonesia. A pleasure to have you here. So we'll continue our conversation. For artificial intelligence to have a major role in Indonesia, you mentioned a lot about the opportunities that Indonesia has, but also the challenges. For IBM itself, how do you see the positions of Indonesia as emerging markets for AI industry compared to other emerging markets in the world?
I think Indonesia is rapidly developing across the two areas that really matter, and that is skills and talent development, especially with your Campus Merdeka program. And again, I mentioned that we participate with our Batam Hybrid Cloud Academy and also through Skills Build, where we're training tens of thousands of Indonesians. And I think that's very important, but skills have to be matched with a commitment, a policy commitment to technology investment, especially investment in digital infrastructure. And so I'm aware announcements have been made recently in Indonesia with digital infrastructure coming more and more into the country, and that's great. But again, I can't emphasize enough, there has to be complementary investments around that to fully leverage the infrastructure. And so I think the key to, for Indonesia is to have the complementary investments and maintain a balance going forward between infrastructure, skills, technology, and then the process that wraps around it to leverage all of it. And so I think if you can keep things in balance, I think you can certainly defy the odds and grow faster than you're growing. And I think that that's probably a good thing because it's going to result in more jobs, not less jobs. Technology creates jobs. And there's plenty of evidence out there for that. But it creates different jobs. And so I think what we'll see is as the workforce, again, you're going to have a young workforce, as the workforce takes on technology and becomes more digitalized, more jobs are going to be created, and the pie will expand for these skills and these people in the workforce. So I think it's all a good thing. Okay.
So tell us about the academy, the IBM Academy that you have, where you train thousands of Indonesian people to know more about technologies and to know more about AI. Has it been going for quite a long time? So tell us.
Close to 2 years now. Okay. It's both virtual and in residence in Batam. And we focus on three things. We focus on hybrid cloud, which is the idea of having a single platform across your entire infrastructure. We focus on AI more generally, and then generative AI specifically. And then finally, we focus on cybersecurity. We believe that these are really the 3 or 4 foundation skills that are necessary for an economy or a business to be competitive and an economy to be digital in a world that's becoming increasingly digital.
Any reasons why specifically the academy is being held in Batam, sir?
It was probably serendipity, to be honest.
Oh, yeah?
I got some recommendations. I probably shouldn't name names, but I got some recommendations from one of your ministers that might be a good spot, and there we are. And I have to admit, it's 45 minutes from Singapore, so it's easy to get to.
Well, wonderful. Let's go back again to the AI roles in having a major role of developing economies in Indonesia. So you mentioned about the government and the private sectors must work together to increase the digitalization and also AI implementation and adoptions to work even more effectively. How do you see the governments of Indonesia have created regulations or and also its governance to boost the AI adoption in Indonesia? Has they been going well in your point of view?
I don't think regulation has been an impediment in Indonesia. Regulation is not holding anything back. I think what's holding things back, to the extent that anything is imagination. And I think if Indonesia could come up with a single, I'm referring to the government in this case, if Indonesia could come up with a single policy on technology and digitalization and artificial intelligence and make that policy applicable across all dimensions of the government, I think that would lead to more investment, more effective investment, and more productivity ultimately, and of course a better outcome. I think that's the one thing that would be very interesting for Indonesia to think about. That's primarily what I see. We need one policy moving forward across all the ministries.
The dynamics of technology is also changing very rapidly, and the IBM has been in Indonesia for quite a long time, sir. So what is your focus here in Indonesia? The products and the service, you have an academy, but what's your point of view for your business development going forward in Indonesia?
So when we look at businesses in Indonesia, we look at how we can help them holistically. So it's not just hardware, it's not just software, but there's also services. So again, we try to take a balanced approach. At the end of the day, clients don't buy technology for the sake of technology. They buy technology to solve a problem. And problems are now being solved in more interesting and more creative ways because the technology is allowing for that creativity. You can do amazing things with AI if you imagine it and then you deploy it in that context. And so I think if I were to add a second thing that might be holding Indonesia back a little bit, now that I'm thinking about it, is this idea of reimagining the problems in the context of what the technology offers. And so the technology allows problems to be solved much differently than they were 20, 30 years ago, certainly much differently than 40 or 50 years ago. But you got to start thinking of the problems in that context and be willing to solve them. And then government needs to support the evolution of process, and they need to support regulatorily the solutions. So there are some challenges out there still, but nothing that can't be solved. It just requires imagination.
Wonderful now that you mentioned about imagination. Mr. Paul, talking about imaginations, even some of the people in Indonesia, the marginalized peoples of Indonesia, where they have no access to technologies, they have no access to cellular phones, they have very, very limited knowledge about what the technology has. Even AI, they have very low-skilled competencies, working in the industry, doing repetitive work, such as sewing and so on. We have this kind of sectors of people in Indonesia. We have the segments like this in Indonesia. How do you see AI somehow will help this marginalized community and make it equal for all the community in Indonesia, and also economy prosper together in Indonesia? Because from what I see, AI can just kill all the repetitive works that they done, and it becomes a warning for the people who are not adapting to technology.
Yeah, so AI will transition people, or technology more generally, will transition people from one line of work to another line of work. I'm fond of saying that, 120 years ago in New York City, all the lamp lights on the streets, they were lit by hand because there was no electricity or no gas. Well, when they put the electricity and the gas out there, all the people that were lighting the lights had to find a new job. And so jobs transition. And so as the sectors, banking, manufacturing, mining, as the sophisticated sectors in Indonesia advance and become more productive, then they're going to create more opportunities in service industries and in industries complementary or surrounding them. And that will open up jobs for, as you say, underserved communities. But it will require change. Jobs that are available today may transition into something else tomorrow, and as long as people are willing to accept those new jobs and maybe learn a new skill in order to succeed in those new jobs, there shouldn't be a problem. I think this is a normal process that's happened pretty much in every country for a very long time. We can look back at the weavers in the late 1700s in Britain, and after they got done smashing all the looms, they all found jobs.
So that was a process that must have been doing in terms of AI once to be implemented in Indonesia. Mr. Paul, we also want to know from your point of view how ready it is Indonesia's digital infrastructure to support the widespread implementations of artificial intelligence from your point of view, from your operations in Indonesia.
Yeah, I think there's probably some more work to be done. I think there's probably some digital infrastructure that's needed, and I know that there are investments coming into Indonesia surrounding development and putting into production cloud environments. I think that's all good. And Indonesia has a challenging geography, or archipelago, with many, many islands. So you have to have connectivity wherever the people are, of course, living. And so,
how is the connectivity in Batam?
Batam's not a problem.
Batam is not a problem.
They got big pipes going into Batam.
Okay. So that was the geographical challenge that must be tackling.
Yeah, you're going to need to have connectivity. If you want digitization, you're going to need to have connectivity, whether that's undersea cables or whether that's satellite. You're going to need to have connectivity everywhere the people are and everywhere it's needed. And so I think Indonesia's made great strides, actually, in that area over the last few years. But whether it's sufficient or not, only time will tell. But again, before you invest in a lot of roads, make sure the roads are leading somewhere that you want to go.
Yep.
Okay? So just putting up data centers and putting up clouds for the sake of having clouds and data centers is not very productive. again, balance, invest in the technology that's going to drive a productive outcome. And if that's the case, keep going until it becomes less productive. And I think if Indonesia thinks in that way, especially with the state-owned sector, I think nothing but good things ahead.
Yeah, wonderful opinion on that. We also need to hear from you about Indonesia has this aspirations of moving the new capital city. The new capital city is in Borneo, it's in Kalimantan. It's called Nusantara, and it is aspiring to be a smart city. What's your thought on that as the IBM General Manager Asia Pacific?
We're looking forward to it, Nusantara, absolutely. It's going to be a smart city, as I understand it. It's going to be very green. It's going to use renewable energy, be very efficient. And of course, what all that means is that there'll be a lot of automation and a lot of technology driving the city. I think it will produce and spin off into the surrounding area a lot of GDP and wealth creation opportunities for Indonesians. So I think there's nothing but upside there, and I know that it's in process and coming along quite nicely. In fact, I just spoke to a group of folks from Indonesia in New York just the other week on Nusantara, and we got fully briefed on it. Yeah, very exciting. Okay,
well, thank you for that, sir. And lastly, probably IBM has been in Indonesia for many, many years. Have you been in close contact with the governments, to have communications about what are the things that IBM can do for Indonesia's thriving digital transformation and also AI, and also how your presence in Indonesia can also benefit the economy digitally?
Yeah, part of our regular outreach across multiple channels is with the government directly. We regularly engage with them to understand their priorities and how they want to digitize in order to grow the economy and reach their goal of Golden Indonesia in 2045. We've made, again, Batam and the Hybrid Cloud Academy was an idea that originated in a meeting with the government. I was in that meeting, and when I heard the idea, I said, let's do it, and here we are. So we act very fast. We're very agile in terms of taking up the good ideas that result from the meetings that we have directly with the government. We're willing to do more. We would like to do more, and I'm sure we will do more.
Thank you so much for that commitment from IBM to Indonesia, and also very, very great insights of artificial intelligence in Indonesia. Thank you so much, Mr. Paul, for carving out some time in CNBC Indonesia. A pleasure to have you.
Thank you.